Hey, Mike.
Yes,
Hey, hi. How are you?
very well. How about yourself, George?
Oh, really, really well. Boy, well, it's been an easy winter so far.
Don't say that too loud.
Yeah, I know. But boy, I'll tell you, tomorrow afternoon I'm gonna take a hike out. Do you walk at all or?
No, I don't. I don't like walking, to tell you the truth. I like either running or riding a bike, but not walking.
Oh, well, you still got good knees. That's a
Yeah.
big difference. That's a big difference. Yeah,
Yep.
but yeah, no, I like to get out. I can get over to Rocky Woods and back from here, and it's a good few hours. It's really it's just
Wow.
it's just beautiful. When you look at what we've got here, just so close to Boston, it's
Yep.
it's it's unbelievable, really unbelievable.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow. Which street do you live on?
What?
Which street do you live on?
I live on Powisset, right across from Powisset Farm.
Oh, okay. So,
Yeah. I've got the it's sort of a little pink Victorian house, and we've got a big pasture with a white fence around it. I
okay. Okay.
Yeah, it's right across from the farm there. And yeah, we were lucky when well, I mean I was sorry Miss Peabody died, but she, that whole side of the street came up for sale.
Yeah, I
And
saw that. They must be putting a monstrosity there.
yeah,
Looks big.
yeah, and it's just yeah, so it's all worked out well. Beautiful land. We don't have a downstairs bathroom, but that's the
Oh,
way, that's the way these little houses are.
yep. I
So,
hear you. I hear you. That's all right.
yeah,
That's a beautiful place to live.
it really is.
Right next to Novinet Woods too.
You know, hey, we got to get you a better microphone, because it's hard to hear you on this. And I know it's not my ears.
Well,
Yes, fool around with it a little bit.
I've got an old computer. That's why
Okay.
I've got to upgrade. That's the big problem.
Jeepers, how do you survive? You're an engineer, don't you guys
Yeah,
have to do CAD cams and all that stuff, or do you?
yeah. Supposedly,
What kind of engineering? Hey, oh, in fact, I'll tell you, and I'll get into this at the meeting, but we've got peer review consultants now. I just and they're good engineers who've worked with the town, in the past. So that's good. We can really get to work. I don't want to talk too much, I think, before
yeah.
we get into a meeting. Hey, there's the flower kid girl. How are you?
Well, good. When the screen came up, it said a bunch of different things. I went, uh-oh. But I got you. I got you.
Hey, good to see you. Boy,
Yeah.
I bet it's busy this time of year where you are,
Yeah,
right?
it is. Thank God. It's good.
Uh,
And
that's,
I've got a cold, so I hope you
uh,
can hear me. Uh,
hey, let me lay this. I don't. I sold my pickup truck years ago. Um, how do you get a Christmas tree from your place to Powys? Do you have like a delivery or what do you?
yeah, we could deliver it. Mostly we tie it onto the top of your car. We've got
Oh,
guys there, they wrap it in that netting and they tie it on the top of your car.
oh, good.
But we could deliver it if you didn't want it to be
Oh
tied.
no, no, I could do that. I don't want to scratch it up, but they wrap it up kind of.
Yeah, oh yeah, they do. But if you want
Oh,
it
good.
delivered, we can do that too.
Yeah, because we've got a new cat, and there's nothing like Christmas with a new cat and a tree.
Don't put any ornaments on the bottom.
Yeah. Hey, Nancy.
Yeah, yeah, George, there's nothing like a cat in a tree. Yeah.
Boy, I'll tell you, we've
Why,
had more than one tree has bit the dust.
why don't you just leave that tree on the top of the car? That's the best bet.
Better idea.
That's not a
Survive
bad idea.
Christmas. Yeah. Nice.
Gee. So let me see here. Gosh, we're almost ready for kickoff. There's a great football game tonight. The Rams and the 49ers is a real California thing. And
Let's move it along then, George.
yeah, I know it. Gee whiz. We have a choice: Thursday night football or choir practice, and choir practice won.
Well, we can do Wednesday night.
Sounds like Laverne, you have a cold.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
do.
I'm
Oh,
just
yeah.
getting over one. It's just all,
A
yeah.
little hoarse. I feel fine. It's just all in the voice,
No, too much
Yeah.
singing. Too much
Gee.
singing.
I am in 2 singing groups.
Yeah,
Yes.
too much singing. I probably some eggnog afterwards. Probably get it, honey.
That's what I need. I need some eggnog.
Oh, yeah, that's a very good thing to do.
I suspect George would have some.
Yeah. I'm ready. So let me see. I wonder, get 3 more minutes until kickoff. We've got, and I'll say this in the meeting, but the town has, got one of their employees from the assessor's office, Courtney Daniels. And Courtney is going to run the webinars now. Chris has been teaching her, so that's going to be helpful. For all the boards to have someone who actually knows how to do this stuff. And hey, there's Tanya. I see her, and I see Paul McGovern, and oh, that's good. So we're filling up. Yeah.
Laverne, why was there a Rolls Royce out in front of you guys?
It was for
Is that
sale.
your car?
Yeah, it was my husband's car. And we did sell it to a gentleman in California who's having it shipped out to San Diego.
No.
Yeah.
Really?
He said all his life he's wanted a Rolls-Royce Silver Cloud 1962.
Oh.
And the guy is 83. He was very, very interesting. I've been talking to him for a long time. So we're shipping that out next month.
Oh, that's
My
great.
husband will be very disappointed. He thinks I bought it for him and I put it away.
Well, that could have been arranged. So it's a really cool car.
Yeah, no, it couldn't have been arranged. Not for me.
It's I'm glad it's gonna have a good home.
Yeah, in a warm home. That's nice. Where's the
Yeah.
guy from here? Or is he how does he find out about it?
Well, there's a Rolls-Royce magazine that comes out every month, like the Corvette magazine or whatever.
Yeah.
And somebody brought me the advertisement page. The back page is people looking for different cars. There were actually 3 people on that page that were looking for this exact car. So I called them all, and this guy called me back and he said, I want it. I want to ship it. He sent me the payment, and now we're just waiting to get the shipping done. Yeah,
Wow,
it was.
who knew?
Who knew? I know. What is it?
And you
It
didn't
was.
even have to put it out there on 109 and get dirty and dusty and oh
It was,
wow.
it was out there for like 2 weeks. It did
Yes,
draw a
I
lot
know.
of attention.
My husband kept saying you need to ask Laverne. How do we get that car?
Yeah, it's a beauty.
Gee. Okay, hey, it's 7 o'clock, I think.
We're
We
waiting for
can,
Nadir.
great is, I wonder, okay, as we started, yes, the webinar, with our Zoom webinar feature is being run by Courtney Daniels. And Courtney, are you able to say hello? I wonder if she's,
There she is.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Courtney?
Hello, everyone.
Hi. Hey, that's great. You're learning how to do this, and that's fabulous. It's certainly better than any of us doing it. And Chris, thank you very much, Chris Costello. Okay, so the meeting is we're going to open the meeting of the Board
George,
of.
we don't have Nadir on the phone. Nadir's not here.
Where is Nadir?
I don't know.
That's not like him.
No, I don't have a number for him. So
Gee, well, he's always here. I'll try to, I'll send him a text. I just sent him a text. Hello, Paul. While we're
Oh,
waiting.
here's Nadir. He's on.
Oh, good, good, good. Okay,
Sorry for that.
there he is. Okay, great. Let me see. Okay, good. Okay, let's open the meeting of the Dover Board of Appeals. And with us tonight, first, this is a webinar Zoom feature. It's going to be recorded. We apparently now have the capacity to watch recordings of these dramatic events. You know, I was told that. So that's good. So everything you say is just forever set in stone. It's being run by Courtney Daniels from our assessor's office. And board members, I'm George Chimento, chairman, and board members, would you please go through a roll call?
Laverne Lovell, member.
Nancy Green, associate member.
Nadir Ahmed, member.
Mike?
Mike's frozen.
Yeah, he was here.
Yeah, I saw him, he was there.
Yeah.
He looks
Yeah. I was hoping Santa would get Mike a new computer for Christmas. Okay, well, he is here, what you can see, and he just looks, the screen looks frozen. Tanya, I'm sure you are used to bigger towns with better AV capacity than humble little Dover. Okay, I think we could probably, you know, Mike is an associate member. I hate to hold this up. I wonder if he can, let me just see here. Okay. I'm sending Mike a text. Because yeah, we were chatting before the meeting started. Well, you know, why don't we do some of the organizational stuff first? I mean, there's nothing substantive that's going to happen, and we'll wait for Mike to get on for anything substantive. Yeah, we're just reconvening the hearing for the application of Tisdale Land LLC to develop 42 rental units, 11 affordable, at 8185 Tisdale Drive, and this is under 40B of Massachusetts General Laws. I would like to know, is Ezra Glenn here? I think Ezra was going to try to attend. Yes, he raised his hand. Okay, what that means, Courtney, will you please get Ezra onto the panel? Courtney? Oh, this isn't very good. Let's see here.
Great, that looked like it worked.
He should be in now.
There's Ezra. Okay. Okay, great. Now, thanks to the Massachusetts Housing Partnership, we have a consultant and also a $10,000 grant. We don't get the cash, but essentially Ezra is to be our consultant through this process. He's our senior consultant. He's with his recommendations, we are getting peer consultants for technical aspects of this. And when Ezra does work, his bill goes to the Massachusetts Housing Partnership, up to the grand total of $10,000. And he's been very helpful so far, because he does this all the time. I explained who he was at our last hearing, but he's got a lot of experience. He also lectures at a little joint in Cambridge called MIT. He does all sorts of work for municipalities and also smaller communities. So he is our consultant. Thank you, Ezra, for being with us. It's possible that attorney Kristen Gagalis of our law firm Anderson Krager may join us tonight. She had another meeting as well. And then I see with us also Paul McGovern, who's the manager of the developer. Paul, you have with you your attorney, and would you please introduce her and also anyone else from your team who is here this evening, because we'll get them put on the panel also. So there's Tanya Trevison.
Yes, good evening. Tanya will be leading the presentation this evening. We are also looking to have Jeffrey Dirk and Gregory Sampson allowed onto the panel, who will be speaking on our behalf.
Okay, and they are they lawyers or?
Greg Sampson is an attorney who's going to speak to the road access issue.
Okay.
And Jeffrey Dirk is our traffic consultant.
Very good, very good. And is Attorney Dylan Brown here, who represents County Court Condominium Trust? Is Dylan here? Okay, and which is not necessary, but if he were, oh, there he is. Yes, okay. Hi,
Hey, Mr. Chairman, how are you?
Very well, thank you. Good to see you. Okay, now for our first order, we're reconvening the hearing that we suspended at our last meeting of November 21. Our first order of business, actually, Paul, I know you'll be happy to hear this. We do have peer consultants. They were, and you know them well. They worked on Red Robin, Sean Reardon from Tetra Tech, and Cliff Boomer from Davis Square Architects. They have agreed to help us through this process, which I think is wonderful because they're familiar with this area and they are certainly very well respected in their fields. Paul, I did send you information about them. I would assume you think that's a good choice. You do, I guess, have a right under our rules if you think they are not appropriate. There is an appeal process. If you've got 10 days essentially, but what I'd hope we could do would be to have you agree now so that we aren't in a 10-day limbo, and that these would be acceptable consultants for the project. And again, they are not meant to be advocates. They are meant to look at your experts' work and tell us if it's good or not, or if things can be done better. Paul, are they acceptable to you?
Yeah, I need to review fully. I just got the email this morning. I need to review fully with my team, but I don't see that we will have any issue with either one of them. I've worked with both before. Yeah. They're certainly not advocates for the applicant. But I don't see that there would be any issue with either party having experience. I've worked with both previously.
Well, that's great. Thanks. Yeah, so that gives us a good team here. And then I think here what I'd like to do with our board is to just take a vote, and I would move that we approve the engagement of Tetra Tech and Davis Square Architects, Inc. as our consultants for the 40B development that is proposed at 8185 Tisdale Drive. Is there a second for that motion?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
I,
Okay, and let's do a roll call. I think we're supposed to do roll call votes with AV. Okay, so go ahead and,
Nancy Green.
okay,
Laverne Lovell, okay.
yes.
Nadir Ahmed, aye.
Okay, great. So we've got everyone, and I think, okay, so that is so good. So they're all set, and ideally, they can start work tomorrow, and Paul will get them so they are working with your consultants also, so that it's really a team effort. Okay, just next is, I don't know how many people are in the audience. Are there people from the neighborhood in the audience? Okay, I see 1, 2, 3. Okay, good. Well, and these all look like familiar names, but yeah, just for background, as what the developer did was first apply to the Massachusetts Housing Finance Agency or authority to have the site be approved. October 23rd, 2023. The selectmen submitted a very detailed list of concerns and recommended against site approval. The MHFA visited the site, reviewed the town's submission, and disagreed with the town. In February of 2024, it issued a site approval letter. That's not definitive, but it means there was enough basis now for the developer to apply for the right to have a 40B development on the site under the 40B provisions and subject to really the Court of Appeal, the Board of Appeals. Our hearing really was started on November 4th, 2024. And we've got 180 days, that is until May 2nd, to continue the hearing. We could extend it with the permission of the applicant if that were necessary. But we should probably assume the hearing is going to close no later than May 2nd, 2025. And the board will then have 40 days to issue a decision. If the developer and the community all agree it's a wise decision and all that stuff, that's fine, they go forward. If there is disagreement, there are appeal rights, and the general position of the state law is that any denial on our part has to be reasonable and not just geared to making this an uneconomic situation for the developer. So there's a great deal of preference in the law for these projects to be approved. And during the process, quite often, there is negotiation about the provisions. Is it everything the developer wanted? Are there some things that can be done to basically make the community happier with it? Quite often, the reality is communities usually aren't happy about this. That's just the reality. What I'd like to do next, at our meeting last time, I asked the developer to go back to the town's objections that were filed back in October last year. And even though the MHFA did not find enough basis in those to agree, still, they're very, very valid points. And so what I asked the developer to do was to go through that letter and respond point by point as to why this development will not cause issues and can be able to address the concerns. What I'd like to do is to share a screen so that we can actually look at the town's letter and go through them point by point. And Tanya, your detailed letter that responded to these, I'm thinking it would be better, certainly use that as a basis, but it would be nice for the audience, because we've got your letter is recorded on our website. People can read it with all of its beautiful lawyerly prose, but I think it would be nice to explain point by point. So what I'm going to do, if I push the right buttons, is share my screen, and I'm going to pull up the town's letter. Okay, so bear with me a minute. And let me just see here. Okay, and let's see here. Here we are. Okay, and can everyone see the letter?
Yes. Yeah. Hey,
Oh.
George, this is Ezra. I just have one quick question, just to be
Yes.
sure following procedure. And I might have missed this when I was, trying to get on from the webinar. Do you
Sure.
typically open the hearing by reading anything from the public notice or anything like that, or has that already been taken care of?
That we did that when we opened the first session of this.
Great.
Yes. And
Okay, just want to be sure. Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. That's your job. You you watch us on this stuff. But yeah, here is the letter that was sent to the Massachusetts Housing Finance Agency, and the first. I'm going to skip numbers 1, 2, and 3 right now, because they really deal with town's concerns about whether the developer is experienced enough. And in the case of a person who was listed as a co-developer, whether there is sufficient integrity. Those are all issues to look at, but I think here that's not what we should be doing now. And I think, Tanya, you really felt that those were pretty much irrelevant anyway. What I'd like us to do is really start right out when we get around those first 3 items. Talk to us about the road. Tanya, here it is, infrastructure roads. It's only 22 feet wide, which seems to be incorrect, I believe. And go ahead, tell us about roads.
Okay, will do. Thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight on behalf of the applicant. So the roadway width, I understand that there were concerns raised about Tisdale Drive being too narrow to accommodate two-way traffic. And our traffic consultant, Vanessa, had concluded that the 20-foot wide roadway is sufficient to accommodate two-way traffic and emergency vehicle response. The fire code actually requires a 20-foot width for fire department access, and the current width of Tisdale Drive already exceeds this by a foot, right? Or 2 feet actually, because there was an issue between the 22 and the 21.
Mm-hmm.
So Vanessa concluded in its report that the project wouldn't create any significant impact to vehicles using Tisdale Drive.
Mm-hmm. And that report is attached to the letter, your letter, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Yes, okay. And so, yeah, anyone who wants to see that, go to our website and you will see Tanya's letter addressing this and all the other points. Okay, now I think, to be fair on this, you have just said there is a problem with, there is no problem in the view of your consultant with the width. What we will be doing, of course, we'll be asking our peer consultants that we have just retained to kick tires on that. That's certainly one thing. And I think certainly we'll ask our fire chief to come down, look at this particular piece of land and say, is in fact, is that adequate here? I know there was a concern that there's not enough room to turn around a fire truck at the end. This is a very small cul-de-sac. Do you have any ideas about how to address that?
That is something that I'd have to discuss more with the team. I understand that there's already a development there, right? The county core condominium association is there. So fire apparatus would have to turn around on the road regardless, if it was the Tisdale Land entity or the condo trust. So, but the applicant is more than happy, you know, to meet with the fire chief and discuss any issues and try to resolve those at any rate.
Because this is adding a whole new structure with, and essentially fires quite often they start by a human accident, and so we just add on a whole lot more potential accidents.
Right.
You know, hopefully people are careful, but you know, that is life. So that is something that I think needs to be addressed. You know, what do we do with emergency vehicles?
Sorry, if I could interject there, please.
Yes.
Yeah, so obviously, as Tanya said already, emergency vehicles are managing to service this property. We also, on completion of this development, there will be 2 new entrances directly into our property. And within our property, we have shown that fire trucks are more than capable of turning around. So what we will be doing with our property is we will be improving any situation.
Well, that's good. Get into that.
Fire
Get into
truck
more
could drive
detail.
in, turn in onto our property, turn around while continuing to drive forward. They don't even have to reverse and driving back out of the property again. But as Tanya said, we are of the understanding that the road is already sufficient for a fire truck to turn around currently.
Okay.
But what we will be doing there would be improving the situation, not making it worse.
Oh, okay. That is helpful, and people who do look at the map that you submitted with your application can see that there is now a big turnaround, 2 more, you know, because you have 2 entrance exit openings that are not there now, with it seems quite a lot of space for a turnaround, and that turnaround is not covered with parking spots. So your feeling, Paul, is that there would actually be better turnaround capacity with your development than without?
Absolutely, and we have shown it on a drawing where we have shown the turning circles, the turning radius of vehicles. There's standards for showing that. There are certain radii for turns that are required, and all of that is highlighted on the drawing that we have prepared. So absolutely, while we don't believe the situation currently is a significant issue, we believe that we will be improving it and certainly not contributing to making it any worse.
Let's now go on to the next topic. That's a really important one for people who live there. Water, the fact that this comes from Aquarian. I did look at the letter that you enclosed with this. It was pretty much a 1-year commitment from the water company, but not certainly for fire protection or irrigation. Strictly water, and no assurance that that a year from that letter that there would be they could still make good on that promise. Do you feel that we should simply rely on a letter from the water company and say there's going to be enough water?
So I can answer some of that if I may. So it's correct that the applicant did receive what's called a will serve letter from Aquarian last year, confirming that they have sufficient water supply to meet the residential impacts and demands of the project. It doesn't include irrigation, as you said, and it doesn't include fire suppression. So regardless, the project plans that have been filed with you all do include a provision of an underground storage tank and associated infrastructure to store water for the fire suppression. And this water would be supplied by external sources, okay, not by Aquarion's water. And in response to your concern about Aquarion's letter being about a year old, the applicant has recently learned that Aquarion is in the process of working with Mass Water Resource Authority to potentially connect with their water distribution system for the entire town. We will keep the board informed on that front as we learn more, but that is something that we're looking forward to as well.
Well, that's, yeah, MWRA water is certainly something the town has never had. Yet the figures I've heard are that if the town were to connect, it's some enormous millions and millions and millions of dollars that Dover would have to spend. So I think I'll certainly will look into that more, but you're sure at this stage that there are some active discussions for MWRA to come into the water company?
I believe that
without expecting the taxpayers to spend some huge amount of money.
Well, again, we
Sure.
just learned about this, so I need to dive in
Yeah.
more details, and we'll keep you posted as we learn. But
Right.
that was the latest that I've heard.
Well, that would be good news for the entire town if MWRA wants to pay for it. Yeah, that over the decades, that's been a hot issue here. Okay, next, the trash. It looks like I think you've got this resolved in your letter. Yeah, just discuss that a bit about the
Yep,
dumpster.
Right. So concerns have been raised regarding the proposed location of a dumpster on the locked side of the emergency access road.
Mhm.
And the site plan has since been modified such that the trash dumpster will be located within the building itself. So the dumpster wouldn't be on a pad in the parking area and wouldn't limit parking spots or impact traffic flow at all. So
Okay.
that's been mitigated.
Well, that's helpful. Parking, here again, our consultants will look at this with you. I enjoyed your response to this in the your letter, but yeah, give the meeting a little detail about what you wrote to address this.
Sure. So there have been concerns about the proposed number of parking spaces being insufficient. So the project proposes 65 parking spaces for 42 apartment units. So that in essence equates to 1.5 spaces per unit. The zoning bylaw doesn't have a parking space requirement for the R1 zoning district where the project is located. So while not applicable to the R1 zoning district, it's worth referencing the parking regulation related to the multifamily residence zoning district. All right, so that's section 185-42E of
Right.
the bylaw. So that actually requires 1.5 parking spaces for each dwelling unit. So in essence, if this project were located in a multifamily residential zoning district, they would be required to have 63 parking spaces, and the project is proposing 65, so it's already in excess of what it would be if it was in a multifamily residential zoning district.
Well, that's good. I just did a quick skim of different towns, and I think there may be, and again, let's let the consultants give us their view, but I think this may be a little under, and I'm not so sure that this bylaw we have that I don't think has ever been used. I mean, part of that is that developments need to be half a mile apart. Certainly much different than the situation we have here, where we now have two developments right next to each other, concerned about parking and, of course, when there are parties or other things, parking going out onto the street. That's a concern, but that's something that let's have the consultants look at that. Fire protection and safety, this is right up there as a key issue. And you may know that because of the lack of turnaround, the school bus does not go up the street. So parents, their children either walk down or the parents drive them down and then they sort of park while the school bus stops at 109. Tell us why you think, and I know there is in your letter a suggestion of a sidewalk. So tell us, how do you think a sidewalk would fit in if we've got this with at least 20 feet necessary for fire trucks and cars? How would a sidewalk fit in?
Right. So obviously pedestrian access and their safety is paramount, right? And Vanessa our traffic consultant did address this a bit in their letter and said that while the absence of a sidewalk doesn't equate to an inherent safety deficiency, they recommend that the applicant work with the town and the condo trust, the neighboring condo trust, together to perhaps come to an agreement on a sidewalk to
And
accommodate.
would that mean, since there seems to be limited space, would that be you would be thinking a donation of land to this project so that the sidewalk could be on some land that is owned by the trust?
If I could answer that, please.
Yes, please.
We don't have property all along Tisdale Drive, but where we do, absolutely. There's no issue with the sidewalk being on our property.
Yes.
But there is, in our opinion, there is more than sufficient space for the rest of Tisdale Drive to do a sidewalk at minimum on one side of the driveway.
Okay.
And potentially on both without impacting.
What would the width be of that sidewalk?
Typically, a sidewalk is typically 4 feet.
4 feet. So
4 feet could be, there is sufficient space without interfering with the width of the existing width of the roadway, which was also raised as a concern.
Okay, so in Tisdale Drive is it 21 feet?
There's 21 and 22 in some locations, and it's actually wider at the entrance, significantly wider at the entrance.
Okay, but 20 feet is needed for traffic. So where does the 4 feet come from? How do you?
There's green space on either side of the roadway.
Okay, so you'd be, and that's green space owned by the trust that would then become sidewalk. Is that the thought?
That's it. It's from
And
our,
that
we
would
have
be
our
a matter
property
for-
that is the condominium association's property.
Okay, so I think that's understood. What you would be thinking would be build a sidewalk, and some of that would be on land that presently is lawn, I guess, owned by the trust. And some of it would be parts of the road that aren't needed. But overall, at least on one side, there would be a 4-foot sidewalk, which is not there presently. School buses, you've got that great big turnaround. Can a school bus use that a couple of times a day, mornings and drop-offs?
Again, I believe if it's capable of taking a fire truck, it's capable of taking a school bus. Whether a school bus would use it or not would be up to the bus companies. Okay. But I believe if it's capable of taking a fire truck, it's more than capable of taking a school bus.
All right. Okay. So that's very helpful.
George,
yes.
Do you mind just for clarification, and this may be something to negotiate later. If it's okay, just one follow-up question for Paul.
Yes, please.
When you talk about the possibility of a sidewalk, I understand right now you wouldn't control that land, so you'd be looking to work some sort of arrangement with the condominium trust. As the applicant, are you saying you'd be willing to pay for the construction of the sidewalk if that could be worked out, or you'd be willing to contribute something towards that but not clear what.
Yeah, obviously none of the details have been discussed or anything like that, but we would be willing to negotiate with the association to come up with a solution. This is one potential solution. That's not to say that there aren't others. This is just one, I guess, fairly obvious one that we would be willing to discuss with the condo association.
Okay,
without knowing any of the details of it, I wouldn't like to commit right now to saying, yes, we will install a new sidewalk, but we are certainly open to discussion on that and other mitigation measures that could assist.
Okay, thanks, George.
And in fact, listen, as for rules of the road, this is meant to be a constructive dialogue between all the parties. So don't feel if you say something that there's going to be a legal position that you made some binding promise. No, that's not what we're at here. It's to understand what the town's concerns were and where there is room for you to come up with solutions with the trust.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just add one note to that.
Yes.
With respect to the association. So we're talking about construction of a sidewalk on condominium property. That's common area owned by the trust. In addition to negotiating with the developer, there's an improvement vote that would be required under the Condominium Act. So you need unit owner consent in order to proceed with that. So it's a number of hoops we would have to jump through.
Oh yeah,
I'm certainly
understood, Dylan. Yeah, no, this is just a bit of brainstorming to see what the issues are and are there any possible solutions.
And George, I think that's a great way to approach this for the board in general, and for the audience, just to know the second half of that is right now you brainstorm, you think through, you come up with the solutions, and then there's a legally binding thing on the back end, which is the decision. Just so if people are in the audience and they're worried, what's legally binding here? There is something legally binding later. It's just right now, as George says, let's keep it open. Let's think through what works best to address the issues. So I think that's a really good approach.
Well, thank you, Ezra. I think here there was concern about open space and recreation and, whether the Red Robin property could be used by the people in the apartment and vice versa. I think here, Tanya, tell us about recreation, open space, what has to be done, what could be done.
Right, thanks. So I think as addressed in my letter, there was a little bit of confusion because there were concerns that there would be no open space or recreational space on the project site itself. And there was talk of it, the recreational piece only being a nature or natural walkway through the wooded area linking up with the Red Robin development. And that was never the intent and never the case here. The project site plan actually includes a tot lot and a dog park and patio areas, as well as the proposed natural paths for walking through the open space area, and then in the woods and connecting up with the Red Robin development. So, and vice versa, actually. So the thought is that Red Robin could use the amenities at Tisdale and Tisdale could use the amenities at Red Robin, back and forth through the walkway.
Okay, now, and that includes a dog park, tot thing. I don't know what the neighbors in county court use. And if this might be maybe something that could be available to everyone who lives there.
So again, Mr. Chairman, if I could interject there,
yes.
We would have no issue with a condition being put on our, and again, that's nothing necessarily to do with the 40B, where the residents of our development have no rights, as they wouldn't, to use any of the facilities related to the condominium association. Would we be willing to offer use of our facilities, subject to negotiation? I'm sure we would.
Okay.
So there could be shared amenities that benefit everybody in the neighborhood.
Well, that's also, it's a good thing to be thinking about. That's helpful, Paul. I think here the environmental, of course, we know there's a vernal pool, and I believe your position is at this stage, you need approval of the project first prior to going to the conservation.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay, so in those issues, I mean, it seems to me they're pretty standard. There's 100 foot, I mean, as far as delineating the wetlands from the parts that are buildable, is there any real controversy about where the wetlands start and stop for this site?
Well, the applicant is, they're currently working with the Conservation Commission on improving the wetlands delineation, the ANRAD, and for people,
Yeah.
that's the abbreviated Notice of Resource Area Delineation, which is, it's a form used to confirm the boundaries of a bordering vegetated wetland. So
Correct.
that's right. So it's an optional form, but it's required before any work can begin in an area covered by the Wetlands Protection Act. So we're in the process of identifying those areas. But again, to your point, recent case law has provided that we're not required to get a determination from the Conservation Commission until after we have received the zoning board's decision.
Okay, but in fact, it sounds like you're already down the road and hoping to get it before, correct? I mean, you're not going to hold off doing what's necessary to get your ANRAD.
So again, if sorry for jumping in, but what the ANRAD, it's a separate process. So basically, in order to finalize the wetland lines and to have those approved by the town on all of the project plans, that wetland line. So we go out and we have our wetland scientist stake that line, and then we request the town to have their consultant come and approve it.
Yes.
That has happened. There is some debate about the drought has played a role in this over the last summer over the vernal pool line. Actually, there is a site walkthrough with our wetland consultant and the town's wetland consultant on site tomorrow to walk it and do a final confirmation of the line. That process is separate to the Conservation Commission notice of intent process. What this does is just confirms, here is where we say the line is, and we get it approved by the town's consultant. So it is a separate process to the whole notice of intent conservation process that we would have to go through all of that at a much later stage once this process has been completed.
Yeah, and my concern would be, we're going to be looking at plans for a very large structure, and it all depends on where it's going to be placed, and wetlands are pretty integral to that decision. It would seem to me easier to have wetlands issues addressed and resolved, but I don't know the timing on that, whether it's practical or not, but
that's not the mandated process. You have to.
No, I know it's not mandated. But it's more, after you get an approval, if you got an approval, and then you've got environmental issues. What good is the approval? I mean, do we start from scratch again with a new location?
George, can I jump in there for a sec? Just
please, you bet.
So just as as the consultant working with the town, first off, I'm not a lawyer. You do have good legal assistance, and certainly good to check with them as well. But just so that you don't feel you're only taking the answer here from the applicant, I can say that I've worked on a number of 40Bs, and basically the process they're describing is what you see. They can choose and often are encouraged to go to the Conservation Commission following this for their final state permits that they need. And there's a sort of a weird thing here with 40B where your board, the zoning board, will act as all local boards for local approvals. The Conservation Commission plays a dual role in town. They may sometimes give out local approvals, but they also enforce the State Wetlands Act. And so to that extent, the development still needs to comply with the State Wetlands Act. And Tanya and Paul are correct. They'll go to them after. And as they described it, they're sort of at least doing the initial step of finding where do we think the wetlands are so we understand our site, so that they have confidence that what they're proposing should be approvable down the road by the Conservation Commission. They don't have that approval yet, but it's kind of on them to say, we think this will work. You're absolutely right that it's a sort of a weird chicken and egg kind of process, because if we force them to go to the Conservation Commission first, then they would come to you and you might ask for changes and they would say, well, the Concom has already approved it. If they come to you, you approve something the way it is, presumably. Then they have to go to Concom, who may say this isn't right. It's really the developer's the one at risk there. They're hoping they know enough about where the wetlands are that they can work with you, get a project that addresses all of your concerns, and then they will go for their final step.
Okay.
Check off. And if they're right, they're right. And if they're wrong, you're absolutely right. It will create a situation where they will have to come back to you and say, hey, we couldn't do it the way we promised. We need to amend the permit.
Well, I like the analogy with chickens and eggs. I mean, looking at the cost of eggs these days.
Yeah, but those costs luckily are on the developer at this point. If they mess it up, they've got to keep running back and forth.
Okay, now last thing, and Tanya,
Sorry, there was one other piece, and that is there were a couple waivers they requested that regarding trees and some erosion control. We do want to make sure the peer reviewers look at that, and we might refer to the Concom just for their thoughts on that.
Absolutely.
Just
I agree with you on that. The one thing that was not addressed in the letter was this concern about wastewater and what sort of plant needs to be installed for this development. And it's basically, whether this could have been or should have been done at the time of Red Robin, it is what it is. The real question I think that you will have to address is going to be wastewater. And are you able to look at the gallons of wastewater that come out of just this new project? Or will you need to take into account all of the wastewater that's being generated out of this location, including Red Robin and including County Cork? So that's an issue that is certainly, I think, something that would be for the Board of Health. We'll have to find out who actually has the authority on this. It's not, I don't think it's going to be our board, but it is going to be an issue to address. I just wonder, what are your thoughts basically that because this is a new project, the other needs in that location do not need to be addressed, and that therefore you don't need an on-site wastewater treatment facility, which is expensive.
If I could address this, please, also.
Please, you bet.
So, first of all, I'd like to put to bed the idea that this was done kind of intentionally, that we could have done all of this as one larger project, and it was done intentionally to split it up into two. That is very easy to refute by the dates on which we purchased the properties on Tisdale land, right through the conservation and almost until the comprehensive permit portion of Red Robin Pastures project was completed. We did not own the properties on Tisdale Drive. We had state approval and we were almost finished with the comprehensive permit part of the process before we took possession of either one or even considered either one of those properties. So I'd just like to put to bed the argument that this was one larger project that was split in two. The Tisdale projects didn't exist for the first probably close to 2 years of the Red Robin Pastures process. So I just think it's important to address that.
I think that idea of there being, it's irrelevant, frankly, what intentions were anyway. I think.
I don't disagree that it is irrelevant. Secondly, with regard to the septic requirements for the project, it is an independent project. It will absolutely have to go through the Board of Health process. We have to show that we can put a standard Title V system on the lot. We are proposing a different system. which we have and are successfully implementing. We're not reinventing the system. It's a standard system. It's just not a standard. It's a common system. It's not the standard Title V system. It takes up a smaller footprint. We have already done soak testing on the property under the supervision of the Town of Dover Board of Health, and we will have to go through the full process with the Board of Health to prove, and this is something that the peer reviewers will have a significant impact on, a significant review on. We will have to go through the entire process and provide all sorts of documentation to back up our.
Good. When do you plan to really start that? I think that could be a pretty time. Where I'm heading is, May 2nd sounds like it's a lifetime away, but it's really, it's not. What are your thoughts? When are you going to?
So again, not unlike with the Conservation Commission, some of that work has been done. So we did the testing prior. There was a number of test pits completed on both properties. We did that prior in our design phase of the project. We need to know the soakage levels. We need to know what the ground, what the property can handle. So again, we did that under the supervision of the Board of Health. So we designed and based our system based on the capacity of the site, and we have to have the backup to support that, which has been done in conjunction with the testing. The test pits that we dug on site, tested them with water. That has all been done. So again, we've designed it with that in mind. It will go through peer review right now, and when it comes further down the line, we then have to go for a permit with the Board of Health also. But again, we're doing that with the background and the knowledge that we have already assumed on site.
Okay, now what I'd like to do next, let me just see here. Going to go to this letter we received, and I appreciated your getting it to us as quickly as you did. It was helpful. But what I think, and these are all matters that have just been discussed, but I want to get to the a really critical issue where the board doesn't really have any jurisdiction. For those watching, this is that letter of December 6th that was sent to us. It's on the website. It's from the developer's lawyer, and it addresses exactly what you have heard today, only with a very lawyerly way. The issue that is biggest, it seems to me, in terms of, I know what the neighborhood, one of the biggest the neighborhood's focused on, is whether there is even a right to use the road. And this is, I just want everyone to understand, whatever the Board of Appeals thinks about this dispute, is it a town road? Is it not a town road? Or in this memo that was given to us by Sullivan and Worcester attached to the December 6th letter, is there in fact an easement regardless of whether it's a town road or not? Those are issues that are going to have to be resolved by the developer and by the trust. Whatever we feel is going to be irrelevant on this. No, you're dealing with title to land, and the land court or whoever would address this, if you did end up in court, they aren't going to care one bit what a Board of Appeals thinks about this issue. So I want you to understand, we just are not going to take a position on this. It's simply, and I wouldn't want to do that also. It would, this is something lawyers need to resolve, either in a court process or through negotiation. Okay, so I hope that's understood by everyone. If you'd like to, because I think the easement issue may be a new one for people living there. It's somewhat different, and that could be explained. In fact, Dylan, have you had a chance to review this yet? This just came in recently.
We have had a chance to review that, and we'll comment briefly, Mr. Chairman, but, you know, we're
Please.
working with our client on preparing a rebuttal to that, but we have a few comments, but we'd like an explanation because it is a little more nuanced than I had expected, so we're here for educational purposes too.
Okay.
So could we have ask for that Greg Sampson be allowed to present this on our behalf, please?
I'm sorry, what?
So Greg
Okay.
Sampson is the attorney from Sullivan and Worcester that prepared the memo, and he's a consultant on this project because of his unique qualifications. He's not only an attorney, but a civil engineer. So he did a lot of background research on this and prepared the memo, and he would be the best one to present if you'd like some explanation.
Well, that's, you know, it would be helpful to have a map to see exactly what's involved here.
So Greg is in the waiting room right now, is that right?
No, he's on.
If you could send us a map just showing what Lot B and Lot A are, I mean, you describe it, but it would be really helpful for us to see. But ultimately, this is not something that the Board of Appeals, and I don't think either set of attorneys here expects the Board of Appeals to take a position on this. Am I correct?
Mr. Chairman, this is Greg Sampson. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I do understand the point of the board as far as you know, your position and how it relates to, you know, what the ultimate outcome is. Just that, not to clarify, not to correct Tanya, but I worked for an engineering company for a long time. I was a planner and a scientist, so I was not a civil engineer specifically. But I did want to just give a brief overview because I was asked specifically to look at the road and the history, and we did some title research. I'd be happy to share the 1998 subdivision plan that refers to these lots specifically. And I think the important thing is, you know, the first thing we looked at actually was the town meeting acceptance in 2005.
Yeah.
It appeared that that whole effort was done at the request of the trustees of the condominium association. There was a period of time from 97 to 2005 when the town sought to get a number of unaccepted roads approved through town meeting processes.
Right.
And so there's a number of documents that we looked at and provided, but what really we found notable was the history prior to the development of the property as the condominium, county court condominiums, was that there was a number of transactions that happened, and it was actually it was contemplated to be developed as a subdivision prior to that condo development. Planning board approved the subdivision, they approved the covenant, the grant of easement, and there were a number of conveyances made in reliance of that, which eventually, after the condominium was the developer at the time changed his mind and proceeded to move forward with the county court condominium, they sought to rescind the approvals, but under subdivision control law, the rescission is not effective with respect to lots that were sold in good faith for valuable consideration. And we noted that because the lot B, which was conveyed out, is a lot on the subdivision plan. It was sold for consideration. It was sold with language that specifically.
Greggy, so people can understand, Lot B, what part of the project is Lot B at this stage?
Lot B now is a small piece of the property that is being proposed for development by Tisdale Land.
And it's Lot B's easement rights that would bootstrap the project into
That's
an
correct,
easement, is that correct?
Yes.
And how large a parcel for Lot B? What's the part that overlaps the project? What's the dimension of it?
It was 2,586 square feet, but it was conveyed to the abutting landowner at 61 County
Okay.
Street Realty Trust.
Okay. So roughly 10 by 20, something like that.
It was a land swap to kind of
Okay,
square off the properties,
okay,
to be honest.
sure.
But what that
Oh,
was done when
oh,
the deed was conveyed, it was conveyed with an
Right.
understanding that future lots could be developed on Tisdale, subject to a payment to the trustees of, or the owners of what is now the condominium trust.
Okay, well, listen, I'm not going to go further on this. This is obviously something you and Dylan and the developer all need to discuss. And but that I must say at this stage, I think we've really covered a lot of ground in just 1 hour. What I think would be fair, we do have citizens, and I've in the past I've asked citizens, not to speak, to just go over concerns that your lawyers already addressed. I mean, we're happy to listen, but still, we've got some time now, and if you would like to speak for, let's keep it to no more than a minute or two. That would be fine. Because those of you who have sent emails to the board, we're saving those, and those will be part of the record. And if someone has a point that's different from what the attorneys have raised, that would be very, very helpful. Is there anyone in the group right now who does not live on Tisdale? I know at our first session, there was someone who lived on Schaffner who was concerned about the dimension of the property. Is there anyone here who is not a county court resident in the audience? And raise your hand if you are. And this will be I don't see the hands that are being raised, so this is up to Courtney. Courtney, do you see anyone raising a hand?
No, I don't see any.
Okay, fine. Well, listen, who would like to speak? And don't feel compelled to speak. We're going to have other sessions of this hearing. But if anyone does want to speak, Janice and Dylan. Oh, let's defer to Dylan because you are the lawyer for the trust. So Dylan, please go ahead.
Correct. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As we mentioned during the hearing today, we received the developer's response to the association's opposition letter late on Friday. So while we're in the midst of reviewing the developer's position with our clients, and we will be preparing a rebuttal that, just like Tanya submitted, will submit it prior to the next hearing and present at the next hearing. There are a few matters that we'd like to bring to the board's attention, and they relate to the access issue. And I understand your comments, Mr. Chairman, that the ZBA isn't going to be taking a position on that, but it is, a big part of what the association's ultimate legal position will be on the matter. And like I said, we were here for educational purposes too. The pretty in-depth analysis of the title issue. So Tanya and Greg, if I'm misstating things, please feel free to correct me, because I want to make sure that both my office and the association know what the position is. So with respect to access, I think that the developer's position that they have the right to utilize Tisdale Drive is based on two pretty distinct arguments. One is that there's this town meeting vote that occurred back on May 2nd of 2005, where the town of Dover approved Tisdale Drive as a public way. First and foremost, and if you have any documentation to the contrary, my office doesn't have any record that this was a petition submitted by the condominium residents. I understand they're a large majority of the homeowners on Tisdale Drive. So if you have that, you could forward that to our attention, because that would be news to at least my office. But more importantly, as Greg noted in his opinion letter, is that in order to make Tisdale Drive a public way, there needs to be an order of taking. And the statute's pretty clear that it's General Law Chapter 82, Section 24, that in order for the town to exercise its order of taking and exercise its eminent domain rights, there needs to have been a taking with 120 days after that town meeting. And based on the documentation or the research that we've shown is that nothing was ever done after the town vote that occurred back in 2005. So for all intents and purposes, unless we see anything to the contrary, I think the association is going to take the position that it remains a private way until that order eminent domain has taken place. In respect to the second argument regarding the rescindance and reliance on those easement rights, if I'm understanding it correctly, and I'll try and sum it up just like Greg did, that the condominium property in 81 and 85 Tisdale Drive way back were all part of one parcel or combination of parcels. And there was a 1988 subdivision plan that was approved, and as a condition to that subdivision approval, there was a grant of Tisdale Drive to the inhabitants of the town of Dover, which would make it a public way. After that subdivision was approved and the easement was granted, some of the lots started to be conveyed off, including this lot B, which is now comprised of a portion of the project site. After that conveyance, the developer kind of switched course and decided that he's going to develop a condominium, rescinded the subdivision plan and rescinded the grant of the easement. But based on the developer's argument is that because they never got permission to rescind those easement rights, they get to rely upon them because in fair consideration, that's the rights that they purchased, so they're relying upon that. I think that the 2 points that the association would make response to that is that if we're talking about reliance on easement rights, at the time that most of these unit owners bought their lots or their units within the condominium, there were only going to be 2 single-family homes there. So if we're talking about reliance on what that scope of that easement's going to be, that just like the developer was relying upon those easement rights, the association unit owners are going to be relying upon there's only going to be 2 single-family homes there. And that brings us to that larger point with respect to overburdening of an easement. Massachusetts law is clear is that an overburdening of an easement occurs when there's an extension of the use of on that easement based on its original intent. And that comes into play here because if the subdivision plan that was originally approved back in 1988, which the developers relying upon, that subdivision was for 8 residential lots, which we presume were for 8 residential homes. And therefore, if this easement is now going to be used for 42 apartments, that's different than the scope of what the original grant of the easement is. And therefore, while we're going to be looking into this matter and, conducting a title search as Tanya and Greg's firm has done, I think that we're going to be taking the position, unless we see something to the contrary, that 42 apartments is different than 8 residential lots. And therefore, this is increasing and overburdening the use of the easement, which I think is a significant legal concern for the association. And like we said, Mr. Chairman, with respect to the other arguments, we're going to be working with our client and we'll submit a response to the developer's response, and we plan to present that at the next hearing. So thank you for your time tonight, Greg, Tanya. Thank you for your explanation. And I'm sure we'll be in touch soon.
Well, thank you. And now let's see. I see Taryn 34 at Tisdale has raised a hand. May we, Courtney, would you admit Taryn so that she can speak?
Yes, hello. Thank you. And thank you for what we just heard and the whole presentation. I have some questions that I don't want to be redundant, and I appreciate the briefness. So some things I just wanted to bring up, like more just passionate about the water quality and issues going on, globally for everyone with this issue. But knowing that there had been a horrible, gas leak, and environmentally, there are single family homes in Dover that are not county court or my interests, but that can't, even if they could do private wells, can't, and they have to be on Aquarian water. And, the attorney just spoke about 42 units or 45 units for easement. But my question is, what does that equate, the 45 units, to how many people as a maximum that could be living there? Because once people move in, as great as it is that it's under the umbrella of 40B, which I passionately believe in, and it's good for all communities, but in the appropriate manner, because why do you want to put 40B on environmentally, on like Red Robins where there was a gas leak? And then you want to put 40B even though it's under the umbrella of approval for us, but in the end, it's just a big apartment building. And this is where it's going. And the bureaucracy of this and everyone's pockets can be wherever they are. This huge unit, say it goes in, you can't regulate. Like, international housing for international families is a huge issue everywhere. You go to like any Avalon, anywhere, you know, I have Uber Black drivers telling me all the time they're living in 2 bedrooms with 6 like fellow international gentlemen their age. To how many people are living in it when you approve, when it's a rental. What I'm saying is, you say how many units, but how many people? So then how much would the water be taxed? Like, for everyone around us and our wells that have already sacrificed people's health. And then you hear from Aquarian that they actually in the 90s put a bunch of the pipes over in Draper on the wrong material. Like, so then when you develop so close to things, when we already have cracks in the well, or you could have septic, like already E. coli in the soil from, you know, septic drops. Like, when brown water comes into Red Robin, which from the parking lot doesn't look like it's even being maximized yet to capacity, when I thought a year ago we were going to see how the water happened when they were at kind of higher capacity and track it, is okay, well, when their water turns brown and they rent, they don't have to pay their rent. When our water is then sacrificed with the droughts and I just want to know that the engineers or Ezra is going to like look at the weather patterns, like to the future of the droughts with Aquarian. Are they going to look at what doing construction so close to things that weren't put in properly that then could cause more risks? Like, you know, when you have a development so close that has multiple 30-year-old leaching fields and septic systems, like you mentioned already. But I just meant from a safety issue, I just don't understand.
Well, you know, you're raising one good point that, and this would be really a question for the developer. You were concerned that, let's say, a 2-bedroom apartment could be packed by half a dozen or more tenants, people basically living dormitory style. For Red Robin, is there any restriction, landlord restriction on the amount of people who can live in a unit per bedroom?
Typically in rental, there absolutely is a restriction and you have control over it, which you don't with a condo association because they're owned by the homeowners who there's no restriction on it. When you are renting out units, you absolutely can put restrictions on the number of people who are living in an apartment.
So you would, you know, it's simply as
absolutely, and you have the names of every person that's
that.
present in it, and you do checks to make sure of that.
Okay, well that's.
If I may just add to what Paul said too, this has been happening in the city of Boston a bit. You know, to Taryn's point, multiple people living in one unit, and it's considered by it's usually enforced by the building department. So if anybody complains, you know, they're not knocking down doors or anything like that. But if somebody files a complaint, they go in and they look at it, and it could be an illegal lodging house. So they would get cited, and so that's more of a municipal regulation. But
okay. Well, Taryn brought up a good point about that. In addition
to clarify one other thing on what she said with the Red Robin Pastures project, 32 of the 34 units are fully occupied, and that is the capacity of the parking lot. It was stated that the parking lot doesn't appear to be full. There are 2 of the units unoccupied. So the parking lot, with a similar proportion of parking to the proposed project, the parking lot has never to this day been full. So just wanted to make that comment also.
That's good, Paul. Okay, now I see Janice Abramovitz has raised a hand. Janice, if you could be recognized, that would be great. Okay, I
Can
don't,
you hear me?
yes, there you are. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, no, great. So thank you. And, I appreciate, George, the way that you're running these meetings. So I just want to commend you for that. And to our attorney, I think Dylan is his name, you definitely addressed the easement issue that I was going to address. The one thing that the attorney for, I think Tanya had mentioned is that I guess there might be some water that'll be given, I guess to some big map from some Massachusetts department, but I would hope that something that might happen in the future is not going to be taken as the gospel truth that it will happen if someone thinks that's going to address the water issue, the quality and the quantity.
MWRA water, I remember that as an issue back in the 1990s. It's been a long, it may happen at some point, but certainly that would not be taken as given until our selectmen said it was a deal.
Okay, and the other thing is, there's things that are laws or guidelines or what have you, the 1.5 parking spots that are being given for the 42 units, that to me doesn't really address if you have 2 and 3 bedroom units with 2 adults in a 2-bedroom, or you could have 4 adults with 4 cars, and 3 bedrooms, you could have 6 cars. I still haven't heard if there is an overflow above and beyond the 62 parking spots, where are those extra cars going to go for the 8185 Tisdale LLC?
Well, that'll be important. And I just, we want our peer review specialist to look at parking. I think when I looked at Wellesley, they were at 1.5 spots per unit, unless it was 3 bedrooms, when I think then they go to 2 spots per unit. I believe, but that may have been out of date. It was internet research can be dangerous. The experts will know better. The experts.
And then,
know better.
yeah, and then the third point I wanted to make up, and again, this is, I guess there's some law that says 2-way traffic can be handled by a 20-foot narrow roadway. Well, is that a roadway where there's maybe 20 cars a day that are going back and forth, or is that a roadway where you're going to have hundreds of cars now going back and forth? It's one thing to say what a guideline or a law is, but what are the parameters around that 20-foot narrow?
That is going to be examined very, very closely, and we'll look the specialists who will not just be reading from the printed page, but looking at the actual situation as well.
Because the comment that was also made at the opening of Tisdale Drive, that it's quote unquote much wider than 20 feet. Each lane is much more narrow than 20 feet. And those are sharp corners that people have to go through. You have to stop. And I know beating a dead horse here, but it is treacherous when those kids are standing there and you have cars piled up.
Yeah.
And again, I just have to address that again.
Big snowstorms, if we get them, that's one other thing to think about. That's the road is really a really critical issue here.
Yep. Anyway, thank you very much.
Oh, listen, thank you. It's good to hear your opinion on this. It is. I see Maggie Sharon and 2 others have raised their hand. Let's let Maggie go in first.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Maggie Sharon, 18 Tisdale Drive. I appreciate, first of all, all the attorneys. I appreciate their clarity around the different specific legal issues with regard to the road. And I think that Dylan's point about the position that the trustees will take around who controls that road, I want to defer to that. However, I did hear earlier in the meeting about discussion of sidewalks. And I think, George, you alluded to, wow, sidewalks would involve taking the land that is our de facto yard away from us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And as a person who lives on an end unit where my house is about 15 feet from the road, that's an issue for me. But putting that aside.
Yeah, and that's an issue, again, Maggie.
Yeah.
That is an issue for the trust, which represents.
That's fine. That's fine. And we will take care of it.
Sure.
But I specifically want to understand, because in Dover, we have very few sidewalks. I've lived here for 15 years. I've been at town meetings where we have very, very long discussions about whether or not to put sidewalks in various locations around town. And one of the issues with sidewalks is that if you have a sidewalk, you must maintain it, you must plow it, you must salt it and sand it. And so as we go down this road, should we get there, and I hear the vague offer that maybe the developer will offer to pay for this, because that certainly is not in the budget of the Tisdale people, as far as I can see. But it can't just be a one-time thing, because you cannot expect the condominium owners to like go out with their shovels to make sure that the children can get safely to the end of the road. So I'll be brief, I'm done. But I think that a sidewalk isn't just about creation, it's about continual, constant maintenance, so that, you know, when school starts at 8 a.m., those kids were able to walk out at 7 after, you know, an icy snowstorm. So I just think that we have to think down the road when we get promises. I'm extremely concerned that Aquarian has promised water for a year. I think what happens in Dover the day that we do not have potable water in our homes? I mean, we already deal with brown water. People in this neighborhood already give our children baths in brown water. But what happens when a tenant has to give their children baths in brown water? Like, do we understand what's happening here? It's like astonishing to me.
Yeah.
So thank you, that's all.
You bet. Water is a huge concern for Dover. Let's see, Mike Donovan, board member, please, why don't you speak, Mike? Courtney, could you let Mike Donovan in, please?
Yep, he should be all set.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Mike's got computer problems, so he may have signed in with the general public URL.
He does have the ability to speak. I'm not sure if his microphone's working.
I think, you know what, why don't we go to someone else, because Mike's computer is really having trouble. I know from earlier today. Let's admit someone else, and we'll try to get Mike a bit later. Can you see anyone else? I see there are two others who've raised hands. Valerie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah,
Hi.
this is Dinesh. Thanks for giving me the chance to speak here.
Yes.
So for the developers, it's definitely a business here versus for us who are the residents who are actually have the family, small kids who literally walk the road when the traffic is going on, and thinking about 40, 50, or maybe 60 cars down the road running on this road, it actually scares us. I heard that they were talking about, when the fire truck can come inside on that same road, why can't a school bus? And trust me, I'm telling you because I'm a parent and I fought for this one with the bus company. They tried it, but they couldn't, because the driver has to take multiple rounds to turn the bus around. Same thing with the fire truck. When it comes into our community, they cannot take the U-turn, but because it's the emergency, they just come and then take few turns. So it's not the road where they can come and take the U-turn and go back, and they're just out of the comfort. They're saying that no, we cannot bring the bus into your community of this road.
Dinesh, I think what the developer is proposing is that the new turnaround at this proposed building is very large and would accommodate school buses and fire trucks, something that we don't have there now.
But
but tell me something, I don't live there, so I haven't seen how fast people drive. I would think that there'd be some consideration and people don't go zooming up and down that narrow road. Do people go fast on that road?
I mean, it depends, because there's no radar, there's no breaker. So people, obviously, we have the sign for 20 miles, but it's all over the place, right? On the road, when there's a 55 miles, who goes 55 miles? Everybody drives at 80 miles.
I mean, those traffic bumps are just obnoxious, as you can imagine. I've nearly lost the bottom of a car. I bet most of us have. But would something like that help to be sure people don't go too fast?
Yeah, I mean, the main point here is this is the neighborhood which has not been designed, or this is the road and the access which has not been designed to put these many cars and residents in here. It has been designed for only 2 houses which are already there, and then condominium code. And that exists really well, versus thinking about more cars, more residents, and more of everything is going to create big problem. And obviously lawyers are already talking about these things, so they will figure it out. But as a resident, I want to highlight my concern, who also has the kids who goes to school and takes the bus from here and walk on the road too.
All right. Well, listen, thank you very much. That is a concern of everyone. Valerie Lynn has her hand up. Let's admit Valerie, and thank you, Dinesh.
Hi, George. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. This is Valerie Lynn. I'm at 14 Haven Terrace. So I do not live in the Tisdale condominiums or in that area. And I am a planning board member. However, tonight I'm listening in just as a public participant, not as a planning board member. Just a couple comments. Something that the ZBA members may want to get some information from maybe the DPW director as to what requirements constitute different categories of roadways. So I believe based on the dimensions of the driveway for Tisdale right now, it would qualify maybe as a minor road. And with increased car capacity, you may want to find out what does it then become a secondary road, and what are the roadway requirements for a secondary road?
That's a great point. And in fact, but I know that is the sort of thing we will want our peer review consultants to look at, and not just to give us abstract language, but something that is specific to Dover.
Another thing is, I think it was mentioned at the end of the driveway, it flares out. And I believe that the flares are things that are required when you build a driveway. It is supposed to flare at the end so that cars can turn in and out of the driveway. So you may want your peer review member to also comment on if that's an appropriate location for children to be standing.
Yes.
And then a third piece is for either one of the members or your consultant to look into the water that was referenced from the MWRA. It's my understanding, and I may be wrong, so that's why I'm saying please look into this, that it would be coming through Westwood. And I believe Westwood refused water service to Red Robin, but again, you're going to want to go back and look at documents and get confirmation on that. So I don't know, and it would be something to find out, is if Westwood would provide water for this development, or if it is able to provide water through the MWRA, because I don't know if Westwood is hooked up to that right now. So, and I know that the comment was that Aquarian was going to provide it, but it's not clear how that would
Yeah.
happen. So,
Well, this is something that I know the developer is going to have an all-court press in finding out about water. These are great. Thank you, Valerie. You spent enough time on the planning board. I read your minutes and really appreciate your coming
thank you, George.
to this today. Thank you. Who else? We've got a few others, and then I think maybe we ought to. We've got some other business we have to do. Board members, we have to approve some minutes. So let's just take one other person. Who is next in line after Valerie, and then whoever didn't get called, you're going to have first crack at our next meeting. Okay, so you point that out. Who's next in line here?
We have Norma Sullivan.
Okay, Norma Sullivan. Norma.
Hi, how are you?
Okay. Oh, wow, that's a great picture.
I know. Wish I was there. Yeah, so I mean, everything has been very informative and thorough. But I want to piggyback on something that Maggie said about the road and the easements. I don't know if you thought about the fact that all the mailboxes are right along the road. There's underground wiring, gas lines, I'm not exactly sure, but they're right by the road. There are bushes and trees right by the road. So they talk about putting a sidewalk in, it's not going to be a simple thing. So I just don't know if people thought about that. That's all I want to say.
Well, yeah, it's a great point. And just an abstract promise. Yeah, we'll build a sidewalk. No, that's something. And in fact, see, that sort of negotiation about the sidewalk, that would be really initially at the trust level to find out, is there something that can be negotiated with the developer? And, and so your lawyer, your trust will be taking that into account. So that I think, but and I'm sure Dylan, everyone is listening to this and will be well aware of that. Thanks, Norma. Okay, so I think that may be it for the open meeting session of the with the persons who are not on the board or direct participants. I think that we ought to now decide on the next date for a session. I believe it may be as soon as tomorrow that I'll be able to get the peer review consultants engaged and actually doing some work and coordinating, Paul, with your persons on all of these things. And you know these developers through these experts through Red Robin. So Paul, first, are you going to be around, or are you heading across the Atlantic to the Emerald Isle? Okay, good. So people can be in touch with you directly.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's good. So let's see if we can get some people engaged that way. Certainly, holidays are not a great time to schedule meetings. Frankly, I'm willing to meet just about any time. But let me ask the board, Laverne, when is the earliest you'd feel comfortable scheduling a meeting?
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, can I interject for a second, please?
Oh, sure, yes.
I'm wondering when peer reviewers are likely to have their at least initial draft responses, because I'm not sure there's much benefit to having the meeting prior to that. I think it's important that we have something substantive to discuss at the next meeting rather than just.
Well, no, you're right. No, we don't want to just do this to, for socializing, although I think we're all starting to know each other pretty well at this point. I would, it's hard to get a specific, Ezra, you have an idea.
Yeah, I mean, I I think it's a great point. I mean, first off, the holidays are coming, so probably not a great idea to schedule anything right away, but that in some ways works to our advantage because maybe that gives the peer reviewers some time to review something. I
Yeah.
would guess middle of January is not a ridiculous idea. And I think the other key is if we can give the peer reviewers some guidance in terms of what we often do with the 40Bs. I mean, these are big projects. They're complex, and it can really help both for the peer reviewers and for the residents to kind of have a sense of the overall sequence. And we generally go through a process that starts kind of a little bit off-site and with bigger issues, you know, things like reviewing the traffic analysis, reviewing the water question and the access. Those could be total deal killers or they can be workable. If we get through those, then we move on to things like internal circulation. And eventually, you know, by the end, we're fighting about exactly, you know, what kind of, you know, tree goes where and where does the snow get placed. But I think for middle of January, if we could push the peer reviewers to say, could you at least report back on some of these traffic issues, fire, you know, maybe the traffic, the water, and the kind of together with the fire chief, can this be done safely in terms of fire prevention?
Well,
We can get that done.
That's
middle
very
January.
sensible.
Yeah.
Why don't, so let's look at, and for a lot of reasons, I think middle of January was starting to look good anyway. The 16th is a Thursday in January. Would that work for everyone?
I'm flying to California on the 15th.
Ooh.
The 16th should be all right. I'll just Zoom from California. That should be all right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or we could try. We certainly wouldn't do Monday the 13th unless that was off your or Tuesday Tuesday the 14th.
Yeah, that would be probably better for me.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to send your own. But
and-
either
and-
of those days would be better.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because but I want to give because Ezra's point's a good one. You know, give our consultants enough time.
Some time, yeah. We have to have something to talk about next time.
Yeah.
Some answers.
So if we did it on the 14th, are you flying out early on the 15th?
It doesn't matter. No, not till like 8 o'clock. That's
okay.
no.
So we could do it 13th or 14th. 13th is Monday, but I don't want to.
Not singing.
Yeah.
I'm not singing that week.
Huh?
I'm not singing that week.
Oh, okay. What does everyone think about, say, the 14th? That's a Tuesday of January.
I'm fine, George.
Great. Okay. Thanks, Nancy.
I can make.
It works for us as the applicant as well.
Okay, so well then let's continue this to the 14th, and if it turns out I'm not getting what I know we're going to need by the 14th, I think we can. I'm sure there's some process where we can continue to a later date, but let's push for the 14th. That would be great. And in the meantime, any discussions that can be had about the road issue, where if a resolution is possible, that would be great to know also. But if not, with or without that, the 14th will give us a chance to look at these other issues. Okay, and that'll be 7 o'clock. Great. Okay, last thing, we're technically still, we're going to be approving minutes for our, which I distributed in draft form to members, but they're minutes that involve our last session. So I think let's approve those minutes before we close this session of the hearing. And let me just see if I can share the screen again.
Mr. Chairman, I think we can probably sign off. We're not needed for this part, I don't think, are we?
Listen, it is good. Good input today, Paul. Thank you. And we'll see
Thank you all.
See you on the 14th at 7 o'clock. And
happy holidays.
Oh, you bet.
Happy holidays.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay. And let's just see here. And we've got for our minutes, the see, the 1121. I'm sure everyone really enjoyed reading these. Yeah, this is 62
A lot.
clicks. Went through all of that. No appeals, by the way, on that. And then our last session. Is there a motion to approve these minutes or any discussions?
I make a motion that we approve the minutes as written.
Thank you. And hey, Laverne, I asked minutes. You don't sign minutes, correct? You sign other things like.
I usually just sign the decisions.
Okay, good.
Minutes have never been. The minutes have never been.
I'll take you off that. Because that'll just be one less thing to do. And in fact, Felicia says she never has them signed either. She just posts them. So I'll just tell her we'll approve these, and that's great. Now we can close this session of the Tisdale.
Though, George, I think we should vote on that, right? So I think.
I'm sorry. Yes, you're right. That little technicality.
George, you might want to technically have a vote. You might want to vote for the continuing the ZB, the 40B. I'm not sure if you got to vote on that.
Okay, good enough. All in favor? Aye, I guess.
Wait, no. So George, I think we want to close the meeting or continue the meeting on the Tisdale.
14.
Yes. Okay. Yes, you're right. So is there a motion to do that? And Nadir, you made the motion, and Nancy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nancy seconds it.
Okay, and I guess we do a roll call vote. Chimento says aye.
Nadir says aye.
Laverne says aye.
Green says aye.
Okay, and Mike, I see his hand up. Okay. Great, now we can close this session and let's get on to these other minutes. And boy, goodness, that was so great of Felicia to go back over these things. These February 29th minutes, these were really, really important, actually. I mean, you first had this thing about a culvert and stuff. But this involves the 40B that we're in litigation right now about, and I did send these to our town council to look at just to see if there was something troubling here, and they thought the minutes were just fine. I sent them to Nina Pickering Cook, who was present at this. So she said the minutes are fine. She said we don't need to have these be transcripts, but I gather that was a preference of Alan, but I think I like them a little shorter. But these are great. Is there a motion to approve these minutes?
I make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
Okay.
I second that motion.
Okay.
George, I have to tell you, for many years, I did the minutes, and the minutes 15 years ago was, we had a meeting, we talked about like 8A and 8-9 on Farm Street and blah, blah, blah. It was one paragraph.
Yeah.
So
You still have to vote these minutes.
It was just one paragraph about just what, no detail. So this is like above and beyond. This must be the lawyer's way to do it.
Laverne, will you vote these minutes?
I will vote these minutes, yes. Aye.
George votes. Thank you.
Nadir, aye.
Okay. Thank you, Sergeant Green. Okay. We next have our next minute, and these are the minutes that are near and dear to my heart. Where it had to do with needing a temporary chair.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And that's where you all got together and said, let's
vote George.
Let's go find some old fool. But in the meantime, so anyway, is there a motion to approve these?
I make a motion to approve the meeting.
No, I've given you the wrong one. May 23rd, we've already approved those.
I think we have.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. The minutes, oh shoot, hang on a minute. Let's just see here. Dover minutes agenda. Which ones were these? No, it's not that one. Darn it all. I know they're there. Could it be May 7th? Ah, here we are. May 7th meetings, not because May 23rd we'd already approved. These are the ones where Laverne agreed to be temporary chair.
Okay.
Make a motion to approve the May 7th meetings as written.
Excellent.
And this,
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Nancy Green.
Great.
Aye.
Okay, that's good. And Laverne, you can have this job back anytime you
oh,
want.
I know, that's so.
Okay. Hey, listen, this is great. I think we just need a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Aye. George
Nancy
Randall
Green.
says aye. Yep. Okay. Everyone, thank you. Have a great holiday, and I'll send you emails from time to time when I get lonely. Just okay.
Have a good
Thanks,
night.
thanks, George. Enjoy the cat.
Oh, you bet. I'm looking forward to the peer consultants. Okay.
It gets real interesting.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, it's great talking to you, Kate. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Thanks,
bet.
George. Nice job.
Hey, oh, thank you. Listen, you make it possible. Okay, and
Oh, it's all fun.
okay.
We just got to figure out how to get Mike on so that he's
Yeah, let's
I don't know
let's
what he
let's
did.
pass the hat. We can get him a nice little laptop for 400 bucks.
Well, you know, he could probably go down and do this at the library,
Yeah.
you know, and use the computer down there. I think he could do that if he can't seem to get it from his house. So, because we don't want the thing to be thrown out because we didn't have the proper people there.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I don't know, but hey, listen, there are a couple of football teams that are playing tonight.
Oh, you better go.
I'm gonna catch the last one.
Good night.
Hey, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And I'll see you for a Christmas tree, incidentally.
Excellent. Well, I'll probably be there.
Okay.
It says leave.